Hey guys, LevelCap here, and welcome to another episode of This Week in Gaming. Starting off, we have some big news that EA purchased Respawn Entertainment, the developers of Titanfall, for around $500 million. Started by former Infinity Ward heads Vince Zampella and Jason West, Respawn has been independent for 7 years. They're currently developing Titanfall 3, a Star Wars game, and an unannounced VR title. EA recently shut down Visceral Games, one of their subsidiaries that was responsible for the Dead Space franchise, Battlefield, and an Uncharted-style action-adventure game set in the Star Wars universe. Whether or not Visceral's shutdown and acquisition of Respawn are related has not been addressed by EA. The publishing giant recently decided to pivot their focus away from single-player games to focus more on co-op and multiplayer experiences. Development on Visceral's active projects is being moved to other EA studios if they're not being cancelled. Zampella has stated that we are still Respawn and the acquisition doesn't change the future of Titanfall. Now, certainly fans of the Titanfall franchise are a little bit concerned by this transition, and rightly so, as EA does have a history of shutting down acquired companies, hence Visceral Games. But I think it's kind of an interesting acquisition. Maybe it means we'll be seeing a lot of Frostbite titles coming out of Respawn in the near future. We'll have to wait and see what this means. New screenshots of the upcoming desert map for PUBG have been released by the game's director, Brendan Green, via Twitter. Visually, they show a much more fleshed out environment than we've seen in the previous marketing materials for the map. The first screenshot shows the urban center of the map overlooked by a small collection of buildings next to a radio tower. The roof of most of the buildings in the city look like they'd make for great sniping positions. How accessible they'll actually be and what kind of loot players can expect to find on these roofs has not been detailed. The second screenshot shows an area of the city under heavy construction with mostly one-story buildings surrounding the construction areas of the much larger structures. The third screenshot is of a fenced prison or checkpoint area complete with guard towers and a small enclosed farm. The fourth screenshot shows what's beyond the hills in the first one. It features a few abandoned looking buildings and cars. The terrain detail and design really stands out in this one, especially the highly detailed rock formations in the background. And the final screenshot is just more rock formations, but it showcases some really good looking environmental design and texture work. Compared to what's available in the current PUBG map, I wouldn't blame you for thinking that these rocks were from a totally different game. Hopefully the devs are planning on revisiting the existing map to achieve the same level of details and polish. In other PUBG related news, cheating is quickly becoming a big problem, especially considering the game just hit 2 million units sold. Videos of cheaters teleporting, traveling at absurd speeds, and shooting players from across the map with shotguns are all over the game's subreddit and forums. To combat these players, the devs took the game offline for a bit to implement some new anti-cheat measures. Complaints about cheaters are still rolling in though, so clearly there's some more work to be done. Now, Bluehole has also announced a new game called Ascent Infinite Realm, or AIR for short. It's a steampunk fantasy open world MMORPG. It has nothing to do with PUBG or anything like that. I just thought it was interesting that they've announced a new game that they're working on. Recently, they did announce that PUBG was going to be in its own game development studio, and so it was going to be different from the Bluehole company, while Bluehole focused and worked on other projects. Battlefield 1's November update is now live. It adds Operation Campaigns, it unlocks Neville Knights for all players, and includes several small but important adjustments to the game. Unfortunately, it doesn't include the big weapons rebalance DICE has been working on for the past several months. The good news though is that in-game player icons have been fixed so that they don't disappear when they shouldn't. Smoke effects on semi-auto rifles have been reduced to increase visibility, and deploying on a teammate that dies mid-deployment will cancel your deployment and return you to the spawn screen. Deploying into a gas grenade will auto-equip your gas mask, and camera shake while taking damage has been reduced. These are a lot of important changes and should, generally speaking, improve the quality of life while playing. There's a link to the full patch notes in the video description if you want to see all the tweaks and changes. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is available to play right now through Origin Access, so you can play through the first 3 campaign missions and all of multiplayer is unlocked, with the caveat that you can only play 10 hours total. I've been playing quite a bit of it, and if there's one thing that the fan base can certainly agree on, it's that the graphics are absolutely incredible. DICE has done a great job of replicating many of the iconic locations in the Star Wars universe, and including a lot of the core heroes. However, I have already discovered some potential scoring exploits with the game that are easy to do and allow you to rank up fast and gain tons of battle points while in a match. I did a video on it earlier this week. You should check it out if you're interested in the game. Rainbow Six Siege is headed to Korea for its next season of DLC. Operation White Noise adds 2 Korean operators, 1 Polish operator, a map set on the observation decks of a skyscraper in Seoul, and the usual mix of new weapons and cosmetic items. The new way the map is designed means players will have to rappel down through access points on attack instead of the usual from the ground up approach featured in all of the existing maps. Visually, the map is pretty impressive and features a lot of diversity. There are tight corridor areas as well as more open areas with minimal cover. Players should expect a lot of verticality to the gameplay. A full reveal panel for the DLC will happen during Siege's Pro League Finals on the 19th. Crytek's upcoming Battle Royale game Hunt Showdown will have a closed alpha this winter. Signups are currently live on the game's website. Footage of the game so far looks very interesting, but clearly demonstrates the game is in early development with very low frame rate performance. Crytek plans to open the closed alpha to more players over time. Once they're happy with where the game is at, they'll launch it via Steam Early Access for its beta phase and eventual release. Overwatch is getting a new hero, the support hero Moira O'Darian. All 3 of her attacks can either heal allies or be used to attack enemies. Gameplay footage released by Blizzard shows a potentially solid alternative to other heroes like Lucio and Ana. She's expected to be available via PTR sometime soon, though no official release date has yet been announced. IO Interactive have confirmed they'll be continuing the Hitman franchise with their next game. The studio was recently let go by Square Enix and forced to go independent. Whether or not they would keep the rights to the series was up in the air for weeks following the announcement. They managed to keep the rights to Hitman as part of their departure from the publisher. Fans of the franchise should expect more information about the upcoming game next year. Call of Duty World War II has sold twice as many copies as Infinite Warfare on launch. Sales of the franchise have been on the decline since Modern Warfare 3's release in 2011. That title sold nearly 31 million units since launch, and Modern Warfare 3 is the franchise's biggest selling title in history. Infinite Warfare, by comparison, was one of the franchise's worst performing titles. We'll have to see how Call of Duty World War II performs over time, but it's certainly on a good track in terms of sales. The Xbox One X has been released. After months of teasing native 4K gaming and enhanced graphics in select games, the improved console is finally out in the wild. Priced at $500, the console is similar to the PS4 Pro, serving as a mid-generation refresh for existing hardware. Performance of existing Xbox One titles on the new hardware is actually very promising. Texture filtering, more stable frame rates, and higher native resolutions in games that feature dynamic resolution scaling are available across the board. More big titles like Gears of War 4 and Halo 5 have been patched to support native 4K rendering on the new hardware. Essentially, if you want an Xbox One but have held out on buying one, the Xbox One X is the way to go. In our final story this week, Wolfenstein 2 has received its first major update. It adds Xbox One X support, unlocks replayable content via an in-game vault, and launches the pre-order bonus DLC prequel chapter Episode 0. Season Pass holders also get access to the DLC. The PC version of Wolfenstein 2 has been plagued by crashes and other technical issues. This patch does address a few of them, but the devs still have their work cut out for them. For now, players with NVIDIA hardware should expect some stability improvements when playing with the Windows DPI scaling set to something other than 100%. Anyway, that wraps it up for today's episode of This Week in Gaming. As always, I hope you guys enjoyed it, and let me know in the comments what you thought was the most interesting story. I'll see you next time. This is Level Cap, signing off.